What's your story about exercise? In this training, I want to walk you through how to create a rhythm, get into that groove of exercise. If you're in a spot that you feel like you want to exercise, you know you need to exercise, but you just can't find the motivation, the consistency to really lock in and find a way to enjoy this long term. There's always something that gets in the way, or it just feels so hard. I want to at least address a huge part of exercise and consistency and motivation, all of these discipline quotes out there that completely miss how much of a diverse range of backgrounds so many people have when it comes to their thoughts of exercise, right? We have the sporty people that have always liked exercise that will get into it. We've got the people that have never exercised before and they're trying to find their footing, really reshifting a lot of their identity to find that new version. We've got people that used to be fit, got very unfit, and now have to rediscover what that looks like and are smacked in the face with how different their body now feels, right? That's one of three very simple examples among hundreds of different stories and backgrounds that you might have to exercise, and the texture towards that can make a significant difference on how easy or hard you find getting into consistent exercise for you. So I want to at least address a very simple concept that we've seen to be an overall pattern after sharing a really simple study with you, and I think it allows it to be really real on how we can make it more challenging, not through the type of exercise we choose, but through how we think about that exercise. And at least this gives you a couple prompts, not right or wrong, but to think in a way that may be helping you make it easier to create consistency with your routine. All right. So what I want to do is share this study with you first. Now, a very simple study, been around for a very long time, and it's simply of two hamsters. One is on a hamster wheel that is able to run when it wants to. The other is on a hamster wheel that is forced to run when the first one starts running. So what we're looking at in this study, what the research ultimately pulls out of this, is that the first one that is able to run at its own agency is able to enjoy going for that run, or hopefully if that's what hamsters enjoy, then it's able to get a lot of the benefits of exercise, right? There's an improved cascade of markers there that show that that was good for the hamster. What's happening with the second one is that because it's forced to exercise when the first one is, there's no agency, there's no control. It feels stressed out when doing it because it's not something it wanted to do. Then there's more stress response. It's creating a lot more of a demand on certain systems. It's creating a more chronic stress. It's in that fight or flight response because it didn't choose to go for that run, right? Now, if we apply this to human beings and what we're looking at from really extracting the benefits from exercise, if that's dropping body fat, if that's improving blood pressure, whatever it might be, we've got to really look at that agency piece to seeing what sort of impact that really has. And I can say from working with thousands of clients, there's a really, really big portion of this, right? And it doesn't have to be that because you've never been sporty, that's you. We've got incredible clients that have really completely reshifted that identity to show, look, this is a new version of me and I'm happy to lean into this. I'm feeling uncomfortable. This feels different, but I know I want to do this. I know I feel better because of doing this. So I'll bring it up on the screen, show you through what I mean. The overall concept I really want to highlight is these four quadrants, and have a think as we go through it to really identify potentially which quadrant you might be sitting in. All right. So I'll start down on the bottom left, which is, I'm throwing CrossFit under the bus here a little bit, but this can really go for any type of exercise that you're no longer getting the physical benefit that you're after, i.e., you've got a stressful job at work and now you go do stressful exercise that doesn't give you the type of response you need in order to strip back body fat. This stuff becomes more and more important the older you get. Getting into your 40s, 50s, 60, by no means old, that's not what I'm saying, but getting to a spot where you're not a spring chicken, you're not 20 anymore, and you have to be a bit more specific around the type of exercise, certainly if you want to get the results that we see with a lot of our clients. So negative. What we're looking at here is that you don't like exercise and you're also not getting results from that exercise, right? So it's kind of a lose-lose. It is a lose-lose, not kind of. You're in a spot that the exercise you're doing is no longer giving you a physical benefit, or at least you're still getting aerobic movement. You're absolutely still moving. It's significantly better than just sitting on your bum in the office. But you might notice that you're just not able to shift the body fat. You're getting achy knees. Certainly in the CrossFit space, it's certainly known for keeping physios, open these days with the injuries to the shoulders, the knees, whatever it might be. Okay. The second one is a little bit more tricky, right? It's one of those ones that you aren't getting that physical response. You're still getting the injuries, or you can't shift the belly fat, or it's creating more of a stress than the body can handle. but there's a positive association with it. You enjoy it. Maybe there's a social element. Maybe there's a competitive nature to that particular environment that you really enjoy. So you really start to have to ask yourself, is this more of a social and entertainment scene, or is this I'm here for results, right? And that can be a really tricky balance. And for many of our clients, I guess a recommendation is keeping the stuff that really lights you up, that you enjoy, but trying to find a combination with other exercise that really gets you the results physically. And in most cases, certainly what we're seeing with CrossFit here with our older athletes can be that they do the CrossFit once or twice a week, and then they have the weight training, some more specific training for their body to really balance out that typical progression that is usually way too much volume for an untrained, amateur athlete as opposed to professional, that we can start to build this up over time. All right. So that's your positive, negative. If you're in one of these categories, drop it below, give me a comment. I'd love to know, is it negative, negative? Is it positive, negative? In a case of it's an exercise you don't like doing, you're not getting the results, or it's an exercise you really like doing, but you're not getting the results you once did. All right. Then we move up into the top left, which is the negative, positive, right? Which is we're making it harder than it needs to be, right? We're in a spot where we're telling ourselves we don't like it. We're not a gym person. We're not a weight trainer, whatever it might be, but we are starting to get a response. We are seeing our body shift, right? This is kind of like brushing our teeth. It's something that we know is good for us. We know that we're getting a positive impact that will be helpful long term, but we always find a way to kick and scream. Think of maybe your 5-year-old kid that, or 3-year-old, whatever it may be, that you're constantly having to nag to be like, come on, let's brush your teeth, right? Let's get that done. And ultimately they'd make it way harder than it needs to be, but they know the benefit is there, right? Quick note here that I've seen work really well. Get them to floss their own teeth and see how much of an impact that makes when you get them to highlight how much grime and smelly stuff is between their teeth. They're probably going to want to start brushing their teeth. And then we move into the positive, right? Which is we really like the training we're doing and we're also getting the benefit from it. This is the win-win. This is where we want all of you to get to, is to be a place that you have a positive association with the type of exercise you do. And don't mistake that for loving every workout. I'm certainly not at the spot that every workout I'm amazingly motivated and can't wait to get out the door, but I definitely feel better afterwards or know that there's a really strong long-term output or outcome that I really enjoy, right? So we get to a spot that positive is ultimately the top right-hand corner that we want to associate with, but we don't all start there. And I think being able to really highlight, like, which one of those quadrants do you really feel you're in right now? And what story are you giving yourself that's holding you back from really getting to that top right if that's not where you're at? Is it there's an identity misalignment there where you feel like you're not the person that you are? And I think the best way to break this down is by doing actions on a regular basis. You're able to redefine what that really is. If you're not a gym person, but you go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, well, you're a gym person and you don't need to make that sound weird. But if that's the block, it's a really nice way to just break down these beliefs of who you used to be and who you want to be. The second part to this is really just highlighting, is this for entertainment or is this for results? If you are in a particular environment to really get that social engagement, amazing. But try and make sure that you're looking after those other physical aspects or able to really highlight other areas of exercise that really hit the mark for you. Humans have an amazing way to continue to reinforce what they already know, and this can be really challenging to try break down those old habits. If you've always been a rugby player or always been a cyclist, to find a way to shift to something that's now working for your body now. And if you're getting those signs and signals that things aren't quite working the same, you need to be a little more specific with exercise, then I think it's worth looking at really highlighting how we can start to, one, redefine the exercise to really fit and associate that back with, or create new associations with, okay, my body feels good doing this activity and I get more out of the social event too. So win-win, I get to do both types of exercise, but my body feels significantly better for it. Or 2, hang on, the exercise I'm doing does actually make me feel good. Why am I making this harder than it needs to be? Let's make some shifts towards actually realizing that it's not going to feel good every time, but this is a good type of pain. There's a significant difference between, injuring something and just having a muscular burn, and that actually becomes a positive association. Much like hunger, right? A lot of people will think that hunger feels bad, but if we get to a spot that we realize that, hang on, most people don't feel hunger because their metabolic rate is so low that they're just not burning anything. So getting back to a level of actually feeling hunger once or twice a day, not starvation, but just a little bit of hunger coming through before meals, is a positive. It shows that that metabolic rate is still working, and actually looking for that as something that's like, oh, I know I'm on the right track. If you start to reassociate that as a signal of progress, well, now we're in a much better spot. And I've seen this happen so many times with clients, and they've admitted to me in many, many ways that that they've moved maybe from a negative positive, being like, I have to do this, I know it's good for me, but now I'm to a spot that they can go hand on heart, I actually enjoy doing this, or I know I feel significantly better for it. It usually comes back to questioning those little beliefs, those little sayings, or things that are tugging us back to an older identity that is no longer us. All right. So take that time to potentially look at that in your own life. Where are we maybe adding a bit more friction than required? Is it the actual selection of exercise itself, or is it how we are talking to ourselves about it? I hope you enjoyed that. A little bit of a different one, but wanted to make sure that I'm giving you a bit of insight into what's coming up in some of our recent trainings, and certainly something that brought a huge aha to a couple of members that were really fighting themselves to create that rhythm that I can happily report they now are finding significantly easier. Hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again soon.